It starts as a whisper, a subtle tingling in your toes when you take off your shoes at night, like you've been walking on wool socks even when you're barefoot. You shake it off. You tell yourself it's just circulation, or maybe you sat in the wrong position for too long. But then, the whisper turns into a conversation you can't ignore. The tingling shifts into a dull, rhythmic burning that flares up the moment your head hits the pillow. It's 3 a.m., and instead of sleeping, you are rubbing your feet, trying to massage away a sensation that feels like a mix of numbness and invisible fire. For millions of people over the age of 60, this isn't just an annoyance, it is the terrifying erosion of their connection to the physical world. This is the onset of neuropathy. It is the silent thief of independence. It begins with sensation, but it ends with stability. You start looking at the ground more when you walk because you can't quite feel where the floor is anymore. You hesitate at the top of the stairs. That confident stride you had in your 40s has been replaced by a cautious, wide-legged shuffle. Most doctors will look at your chart, see your age, and give you the standard speech. They'll tell you it's wear and tear. They might prescribe a pill that dulls the brain to mask the signal coming from the feet, leaving you groggy but still damagingly numb. But here is the truth that often gets buried in the fine print of medical textbooks. Nerves are not dead wires. They are living, breathing electrical pathways that are currently suffocating. The pain you feel, that pins and needles electric shock, is not a death rattle. It is a distress signal. It is your body screaming for resources it has stopped receiving. And if you are listening to this, it means the line is still open. The connection can be repaired. To understand how we fix this, we have to abandon the idea that the body is just a machine that rusts until it breaks. We have to look at the architecture of the nerve itself. Imagine a high-fidelity audio cable carrying a signal from a guitar to an amplifier. In your body, that cable is the axon, and the rubber coating that protects the signal is a fatty, protective substance called myelin. When you are 20, that myelin is thick, pristine, and conductive. Signals travel from your big toe to your brain at over 200 miles per hour. It's instantaneous. You step on a pebble, your body adjusts before you even consciously realize it. But as we cross the threshold of 60, a microscopic war begins to degrade that insulation. The rubber coating starts to fray. The copper wire becomes exposed. This is why you feel things that aren't there: burning, itching, crawling sensations. It's static on the line. The signal is leaking out into the surrounding tissue instead of going straight to the brain. This is short-circuiting in the most literal biological sense. However, the fraying of the wire is rarely the root cause. It is the result of a deeper starvation. Nerves are incredibly hungry cells. They require a massive amount of energy to maintain that electrical charge. To get that energy, they rely on a dedicated network of microscopic blood vessels called the vasa nervorum. These are the lifelines of your nervous system. In many seniors, these tiny vessels have begun to wither. They are clamping down, clogged by inflammation and oxidative stress, essentially choking the nerve. The nerve isn't dying of old age, it is gasping for oxygen. And this is where the turnaround begins, because we know how to reopen those floodgates. The first step in this resurrection involves addressing the sludge that is clogging those microvessels. We often talk about blood sugar in the context of diabetes, but even if you aren't diabetic, glucose volatility is the enemy of the aging nerve. When blood sugar spikes, even moderately, it creates a sticky, corrosive environment in the blood. This leads to a process called glycation. Picture pouring syrup over a delicate computer chip. The glucose molecules bind to proteins and fats in the nerve endings, creating a crust that hardens the cell walls and blocks nutrients from entering. You cannot fix the nerve if you continue to caramelize it. The immediate tactical shift required is to lower the systemic inflammation that drives this process. We aren't just talking about cutting cookies, we are talking about introducing specific, potent fuels that strip away this sugar rust. This brings us to the first major tool in your repair kit, a compound that functions as the master antioxidant for the nerves, alpha-lipoic acid, or ALA. Unlike most antioxidants that are either water-soluble or fat-soluble, ALA is both. This dual nature allows it to penetrate the fatty myelin sheath of the nerve and the watery interior of the cell. It goes where other nutrients cannot. Clinical data suggests that ALA doesn't just protect the nerve, it improves nerve conduction velocity. It helps clean up the oxidative rust accumulating on your internal wiring. But popping a supplement isn't a magic bullet if the delivery system, blood flow, is stagnant. We have to physically force the fuel to the site of the damage. This brings us to the concept of active perfusion. When you have nerve damage, your instinct is to move less because it hurts or feels unstable. This is the trap. Immobility accelerates the dying off of the vasa nervorum capillaries. To signal your body to rebuild these vessels, you must demand oxygen in the extremities. But we don't need you running marathons. We need specific, targeted stimulation. We start with something seemingly primitive, texture therapy. Your nerves operate on a use-it-or-lose-it principle. If your brain stops receiving high-quality sensory data from your feet, it creates a phantom map that is often interpreted as pain. By reintroducing texture, we force the brain to remap the area. This involves rolling the bottom of your foot over a textured ball, a tennis ball or a dedicated spiky massage ball, for 5 minutes every morning. You aren't just massaging muscles here, you are waking up sensory receptors, the mechanoreceptors that have gone dormant. As you apply pressure, you are manually compressing and releasing the sponge of the foot, mechanically pumping fresh oxygenated blood into those starving tissues. It sends a surge of data up the spinal cord, reminding the central nervous system that the feet are still there, still valid, and still require maintenance. This mechanical signaling triggers the release of nerve growth factor, NGF, a protein that acts like fertilizer for your neurons. Once we have the blood moving and the sensory input rebooted, we have to look at the building blocks of the repair itself. If ALA is the cleaner, the B vitamin complex is the raw construction material. But here's the critical error most people over 60 make. They take the wrong kind of B12. You look at your multivitamin and it says cyanocobalamin. This is the synthetic, cheap version of B12, and for an aging body with compromised digestion, it is notoriously difficult to absorb and utilize. Your nerves are made of lipids and proteins that require methylcobalamin, the bioactive form of B12. This form is already methylated, meaning your body doesn't have to convert it, it can plug it directly into the repair process of the myelin sheath. When you combine this with benfotiamine, a fat-soluble form of vitamin B1 that can actually penetrate the nerve membrane up to 360% better than standard water-soluble thiamine, you create a biochemical environment where regeneration is favored over degeneration. Think of benfotiamine as the shield that blocks the glycation, that sugar rust we talked about earlier. It sits at the cellular doorway and prevents the glucose byproducts from trashing the interior of the cell. By stacking these specific bioavailable nutrients, you are no longer just hoping for the best, you are providing the exact blueprints and materials the body needs to patch the frayed wires. But materials and blood flow are only half the equation. We must address the voltage itself. The nervous system is electric, but it is housed in a mechanical casing, your muscles and fascia. In many seniors, the neuropathy is exacerbated by entrapment. Over decades, gravity, poor posture, and the natural tightening of fascia can compress the nerves as they travel through the hips, down the legs, and into the ankles. The tarsal tunnel, right on the inside of your ankle, is a notorious choke point. If the tissue there is tight, it's like stepping on a garden hose. The water, or in this case, the nerve signal and blood flow, simply stops. We unlock this through nerve flossing. Unlike stretching muscles where you hold the position to lengthen tissue, nerve flossing involves oscillating movements that glide the nerve back and forth through its sheath. Imagine a piece of dental floss sliding between tight teeth. We want the nerve to slide freely through the surrounding muscle. A simple sciatic nerve floss can be done sitting in a chair. You slump your neck forward while extending your leg. Then look up while bending the knee. This rhythmic pumping pulls the nerve through the tunnel, breaking up micro-adhesions that are pinching the signal. When you free the nerve from physical entrapment, the chemical improvements from your diet and supplements can finally reach their destination. You are physically clearing the road so the supply trucks can get through. This creates a compounding effect: better flow, better fuel, less compression, less pain. As we integrate these physical and chemical strategies, we must address the time when the damage is most active, the night. Why do symptoms scream loudest when you try to sleep? During the day, your brain is flooded with sensory input: sights, sounds, balance, temperature. This noise dampens the pain signals coming from the feet. This is the gate control theory of pain. But when the lights go out and the house is quiet, those distracting inputs vanish. The only signal left is the distress call from your damaged nerves, which the brain then amplifies. Furthermore, when you lie flat, gravity no longer assists blood flow to the feet. In a compromised vascular system, this reduces oxygen tension even further, causing the nerves to flare and panic. To combat this, we have to look at your sleep hygiene through a neurological lens. Keeping the bedroom cool is essential, but keeping the feet warm, not hot, but warm, can prevent the vasoconstriction that cuts off blood flow. Loose, non-restrictive wool socks can maintain a microclimate that keeps the vessels dilated. However, the sheet weight matters too. For many, the weight of a heavy blanket on the toes is excruciating, a condition called allodynia. Using a blanket lifter or a simple hoop at the end of the bed can take the pressure off the toes, removing the mechanical irritation that triggers the nerves, allowing the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and repair mode, to finally take over. Now let's zoom out to the engine that drives this entire system, the brain. We often think of neuropathy as a peripheral problem, something happening out there in the toes. But pain is constructed in the brain. Chronic pain changes the brain's wiring, making it more efficient at feeling pain. It's a vicious loop. The more you feel pain, the better your brain gets at detecting it, eventually lowering the threshold so that even a safe sensation is interpreted as dangerous. This is called central sensitization. To fix the nerve damage, we have to retrain the brain to stop overreacting. This brings us to the power of dual tasking exercises. When you are doing your texture rolling or your nerve flossing, you shouldn't be passively watching TV. You should be actively engaging your brain. Try standing on one leg, holding a counter for safety, while counting backward from 100 by sevens. By forcing the brain to perform a cognitive task while managing balance, you are distracting the pain matrix. You are forcing the cerebellum, the balance center, to take over without the interference of the fear-pain loop. You are effectively overriding the check engine light that has been stuck in the on position. This neuroplasticity is real and it is potent at any age. You are teaching your brain that the signal from the foot is about position, not pain. Let's talk about the timeline. This is where most people fail. They try the ALA for a week, they floss their nerves twice, and when the burning doesn't vanish instantly, they quit. They return to the doctor for a stronger gabapentin prescription. But nerve regeneration is one of the slowest biological processes in the human body. A peripheral nerve heals at a rate of approximately 1 millimeter per day. That is an inch a month. If the damage is in your feet and the issue stems from the lower leg, you are looking at a marathon, not a sprint. You need to shift your mindset from fixing to cultivating. You are gardening. You are tending to a soil that has been dry for decades. The first signs of success won't be the total absence of pain. It will be the changing of the sensation. The sharp stabbing might turn into a dull ache. The numbness might turn into a prickly itch. This is actually a good sign. It means the lights are flickering back on. Silence in a nerve is bad. Numbness is the final stage before cell death. A return of sensation, even if it's uncomfortable sensation like itching or tingling, is often a sign of reperfusion. It's the pins and needles feeling you get when your arm wakes up, but played out over weeks. Recognizing this shift prevents you from giving up right when the healing process is gaining traction. We must also confront the environmental toxins that are silently sabotaging your progress. In our 60s, our ability to detoxify heavy metals and pesticides diminishes. There is mounting evidence linking long-term exposure to everyday toxins like mercury in dental amalgams or pesticides in non-organic produce to peripheral neuropathy. These toxins have a high affinity for fatty tissues, and remember, your nervous system is essentially the fattiest system in your body. The myelin sheath is a fat magnet for lipophilic toxins. You don't need a radical, dangerous detox. You need gentle, consistent support. This means hydration is non-negotiable. Most seniors are chronically dehydrated, which turns the blood into sludge, making it harder for those nutrients to reach the microvessels. But beyond water, adding simple chelating foods like cilantro and parsley to your diet can help gently mobilize these heavy metals. Think of this as dusting the furniture in the house you are renovating. You can fix the foundation, blood flow, and repair the walls, myelin, but if the house is filled with toxic dust, it's still unlivable. By drinking lemon water in the morning and adding green herbs to your meals, you support the liver and kidneys in flushing out the debris that your nerve repair process is kicking up. There is an emotional component to this journey that we cannot ignore. Neuropathy breeds isolation. The fear of falling makes you say no to the garden party. It makes you skip the walk in the park with the grandkids. This social withdrawal creates a feedback loop of depression and inactivity, both of which increase inflammation and pain perception. The antidote is to reclaim your territory, inch by inch. This starts with footwear. Do not resign yourself to orthopedic shoes that look like medical devices if you don't have to, but stop squeezing your feet into tapered toe boxes. Most modern shoes crush the toes together, cutting off circulation to the very endpoints we are trying to save. Look for wide toe box or zero-drop shoes that allow your toes to splay naturally. When your toes can spread, you have a wider base of support. A wider base means more stability. More stability means less fear. When the fear subsides, the tension in your legs drops, the blood flow improves, and you enter a positive spiral of recovery. It is a physical change that yields a psychological victory. You start trusting your feet again, and when you trust your feet, you re-enter the world. As we move into the advanced strategies, we have to discuss the role of cold therapy, but with a major caveat. You may have heard of ice baths for inflammation. For a neuropathic foot, ice can be dangerous because you might not feel frostbite setting in, and it constricts the very vessels we are trying to open. However, contrast baths are a powerful therapy if done carefully. This involves alternating between warm water, not hot, and cool water, not freezing. 3 minutes in warm, 1 minute in cool, repeated 3 times. This creates a pumping action in the blood vessels. Dilation, constriction, dilation, constriction. It is vascular gymnastics. It forces the smooth muscles lining your arteries to work, strengthening them and improving their ability to deliver blood on their own. You are essentially manually overriding the autonomic nervous system, forcing circulation into the dead zones. This requires no drugs, no surgery, and costs nothing but water and time. It is a daily ritual that signals to your body, we're not done with these feet yet. We have talked about blood flow, mechanics, and raw materials, but we need to address the spark itself. Your nerves are not just wires, they are biological batteries. They operate on a delicate balance of electrolytes. Imagine trying to start a car with a battery that is completely dry. It doesn't matter how good the engine is, nothing happens. In the human body, that battery fluid is a mix of sodium, potassium, calcium, and most critically, magnesium. Here is the statistic that should alarm you. It is estimated that nearly half of the population is deficient in magnesium, and that number skyrockets for those over 60 due to reduced absorption in the gut and medication interactions. Magnesium is the gatekeeper of the nerve receptor. It regulates the flow of electricity. Without enough of it, the nerves stay in a state of hyperexcitability. They are stuck in the on position. This contributes to that twitching, cramping, and restless leg syndrome that plagues so many neuropathy sufferers at night. You cannot simply drink more water to fix this. In fact, drinking plain water without minerals can flush out the few electrolytes you have left. You need to mineralize your hydration. This doesn't require sugary sports drinks. It means adding a pinch of Celtic sea salt or Himalayan pink salt to your morning water, or using a dedicated electrolyte powder that is free of sugar. When you correct the electrolyte balance, you're essentially topping up the battery fluid, allowing the nerve signal to fire cleanly and, more importantly, to relax when the job is done. Once the battery is charged, we have to look at the quality of the insulation again. We touched on the myelin sheath earlier, but we need to discuss what it is actually made of. It is fat. Your brain is 60% fat. Your nerves are wrapped in fat. For decades, we have been told that fat is the enemy, leading many seniors to adopt low-fat diets that have inadvertently starved their nervous systems. To repair the myelin sheath, you must consume the specific fatty acids that act as the raw mortar for reconstruction. The hero here is DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, a type of omega-3 fatty acid found in cold water fish. DHA is incorporated directly into the neuronal membrane. It keeps the cell wall fluid and flexible, allowing signals to pass through easily. If your cell walls are rigid because your diet is high in inflammatory vegetable oils like soybean or corn oil and low in omega-3s, the signal struggles to get through. You need to become an oil change mechanic for your body. Stop consuming the inflammatory oils that rust your pipes and start consuming high-quality fish oil, krill oil, or eating sardines and salmon. This isn't just about heart health. This is structural engineering for your nerves. When you increase your intake of omega-3s, you're dampening the systemic inflammation that attacks the nerves while simultaneously providing the bricks to rebuild the wall. Now, let's venture into a technology that sounds like science fiction but is rooted in hard science: photobiomodulation, or red light therapy. Deep inside every nerve cell are tiny power plants called mitochondria. When a nerve is damaged, these mitochondria shut down. They stop producing ATP, the energy currency of the cell. The cell runs out of gas. Red light therapy involves exposing the skin to specific wavelengths of red and near-infrared light. Unlike UV light from the sun, which damages DNA, near-infrared light penetrates deep into the tissue, through the skin, through the muscle, and right into the nerve. When this light hits the mitochondria, it knocks off a molecule called nitric oxide that is gumming up the works, allowing oxygen to flood back in. The result? The power plant restarts. You can buy home devices for this now. Sitting with your feet under a red light panel for 15 minutes a day can jumpstart cellular repair. It stimulates angiogenesis, the creation of new blood vessels. We're talking about growing new roads for the blood to reach the dying nerves. It is passive, painless, and targets the root cause of cellular energy failure. While we are adding light and nutrients, we must subtract a poison that you generate yourself: cortisol. Chronic stress is neurotoxic. When you are in a state of worrying about your balance, your future, your pain, your body stays in fight or flight mode. In this mode, the body prioritizes blood flow to the big muscles of the thighs and arms to run from a tiger and shunts blood away from the extremities and the digestive system. Your hands and feet are the first to be sacrificed when you are stressed. To fix your nerves, you must consciously shift your body into the parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode. This is the only state in which repair occurs. We do this through breath work. The 4-7-8 breathing technique is a biological switch. You inhale through your nose for a count of 4, hold that breath for a count of 7, and exhale forcibly through your mouth for a count of 8. Doing this for just 4 cycles sends a chemical message to the brain to lower cortisol and dilate the blood vessels. You are manually overriding the stress response, opening the floodgates for blood to return to your toes. You cannot heal a body that is running from a tiger. You have to stop running. Let's talk about a specific mushroom that has been used in Eastern medicine for centuries and is now stunning Western neurologists: lion's mane. While B vitamins are the raw materials, lion's mane appears to be the architect. It contains compounds called hericenones and arenosines that stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, NGF. NGF is exactly what it sounds like. It is a protein that tells neurons to repair themselves and grow new branches. In animal studies, lion's mane has been shown to actually regenerate damaged myelin. This is profound. We aren't just masking pain, we are talking about regrowth. It doesn't taste like a mushroom, it has a texture similar to crab meat, but most people take it as an extract. Adding this to your morning routine creates a biochemical environment where regeneration is prioritized. Think of it as miracle grow for your nervous system. When you combine this with the physical stimulation of the texture rolling we discussed earlier, you are giving the nerves both the signal to grow and the chemical support to do it. We need to address the surface treatments. When the pain is flaring at 8 p.m., you need relief now. But instead of reaching for a numbing cream that shuts down the nerve, consider a depletion strategy using capsaicin. Capsaicin is the compound that makes chili peppers hot. It seems counterintuitive to put heat on burning feet, but the biology is fascinating. Pain is transmitted by a chemical messenger called substance P. When you apply a capsaicin cream, it initially causes a sensation of heat, which triggers the nerves to dump all their substance P at once. Once that supply is depleted, the nerve cannot send pain signals for hours or even days until it makes more. You start with a low concentration, 0.025%, and work your way up. It's not about numbing the sensor, it's about emptying the ammunition so the gun can't fire. Pair this with a high-quality magnesium oil spray. Magnesium absorbs poorly through the digestive tract, but wonderfully through the skin. Spraying it directly on the calves can relax the muscles that are compressing the nerves, attacking the problem from the outside in. There is a hidden axis of communication in your body that dictates inflammation, the gut-brain connection. Your gut produces the vast majority of your body's neurotransmitters. If your gut is inflamed, leaky, bloated, or irritated by gluten and processed sugars, it releases inflammatory cytokines into the bloodstream. These cytokines travel to your damaged nerves and light them on fire. You cannot have a calm nervous system with an inflamed gut. They are one and the same. This means that fixing your feet might require you to look at your stomach. Incorporating fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, or kefir introduces beneficial bacteria that calm the immune system. When you heal the gut lining, you stop the leakage of toxins into the blood. The background noise of inflammation drops. Suddenly, the supplements you are taking work better because they aren't fighting a war against systemic irritation. You are clearing the static so the music can play. Let's introduce a concept called whole body vibration. You might have seen those vibrating platforms at the gym. For a senior with neuropathy, these are not a gimmick, they are a therapy tool. The vibration stimulates the mechanoreceptors in the feet at a frequency that is impossible to replicate with manual massage. Standing on a vibration plate for just 10 minutes creates thousands of micro-adjustments in your muscles and nerves. It forces the blood to pump against gravity. It wakes up the proprioceptive system, the system that tells you where you are in space. Because it is low impact, it doesn't damage the joints, it merely buzzes the sleepy nerves into attention. It is like ringing the doorbell of your nervous system 30 times a second. Are you there? Are you there? Eventually, the nerves answer. This is particularly effective for those who cannot walk long distances yet. It brings the exercise to the nerves without the pounding of the pavement. A critical warning: you must become the CEO of your own medical team. Many general practitioners are not specialists in peripheral neuropathy. They see it as a side effect of aging or diabetes that acts as a checkbox diagnosis. You need to ask for the right tests. If your EMG, electromyogram, comes back normal, but your feet are burning, do not let them tell you it's in your head. EMGs tests the large nerves. They often miss the small fiber neuropathy, which affects the tiny nerves responsible for pain and temperature. This requires a skin punch biopsy. Why does this matter? Because a specific diagnosis changes the treatment plan. It validates your pain. You must advocate for yourself. Ask about your B12 levels, not just if they are normal, but if they are optimal, above 500 pg per ml. Ask about checking for autoimmune markers. When you show up informed, asking about vasa neurorum perfusion and small fiber protocols, you change the dynamic in the exam room. You stop being a passive patient and start being an active partner in your recovery. Let's talk about the concept of autophagy. This is a cellular cleanup process that happens when you aren't eating constantly. Our ancestors didn't snack every 2 hours. When you give your body a break from digestion, perhaps by finishing dinner at 6 p.m. and not eating until 8 a.m. the next day, you enter a mild fasted state. During this window, since the body doesn't have to digest food, it turns its attention to cleaning house. It scours the cells for damaged proteins and organelles, the debris of nerve damage, and recycles them. Autophagy is the body's internal recycling crew. By practicing this simple time-restricted eating, you allow the nervous system to detoxify. You lower the insulin spikes that cause the glycation, or sugar rust we talked about earlier. It costs nothing, it requires no pills, it is simply a matter of timing your intake to align with your body's natural repair cycles. We have covered a lot of ground: biology, mechanics, chemistry, and electricity. It can feel overwhelming, but you don't do all of this at once. You layer it. You start with the shoes and the water, then you add the textured rolling, then the supplements. It becomes a ritual of self-respect. Imagine your new morning. You wake up, drink your mineralized water, you roll your feet on the textured ball while the coffee brews, you take your methyl B12 and lion's mane, you put on your wide toe box shoes. You are not treating a disease, you are living a lifestyle of high-performance aging. This routine becomes your armor. Every action is a vote for your independence. Every time you floss your nerve or choose the salmon over the burger, you are buying yourself more years of walking on the beach, more years of playing with the grandkids, more years of standing tall. The alternative is a slow retreat into the chair, and the chair is a trap. Once you stop moving, the lights go out in the periphery for good. But that is not your future, not anymore. You now possess the owner's manual for your nervous system. The tingling, the burning, the numbness, these were the alarm bells. Thank them for the warning, and then shut them off by fixing the problem. The body is forgiving. It wants to heal. It is waiting for you to give it the tools. You are over 60, which means you have survived 100% of your bad days. You have resilience in your DNA. Apply that resilience to this. Fix the wires, clear the pipes, turn the power back on. Your feet are your foundation. It's time to rebuild them. Step forward, feel the ground, and reclaim your life.